carbon,
CO2 emissions,
carbon dioxide,
CO2,
carbon dioxide emissions.
carbon dioxide emissions continue to increase.
Humans have created a huge emissions problem on our planet, and carbon dioxide is the biggest contributor. Our world's largest industries are constantly burning fossil fuels, releasing more than 1,300 metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere every second. But what if that carbon could be converted into valuable and profitable resources? That's the mission of carbon capture and utilization company, Airco.
We're not a business that's built around going out and needing to then be sustainable to offset the work that we're doing. Our business is inherently sustainable. We're taking carbon dioxide, the most pollutant gas on planet Earth, causing climate change, and we're utilizing it.
One 2024 study found that the global carbon capture and utilization market is expected to more than double from about $4.4 billion in 2023 to roughly $10.8 billion by 2032. But what will it take for this industry to live up to its potential? Konstantin says other companies need to jump in and innovate alongside Airco.
There is so much room for other companies to come into the space. We need more companies to come into the space. When you think about climate change as one of the most existential challenges that we're facing as humanity, we're not going to be able to do it alone.
A common practice in the industry is to store the CO2 deep underground. CO2 is taken from industrial sources and buried in underground rock formations, where studies show it can stay for thousands of years. While this does stop carbon from entering the atmosphere, it's expensive, and it's not always as green as it sounds. The CO2 could leak into the air or water sources, and most of the existing carbon capture facilities sell the CO2 to oil companies, who use the captured carbon to pump even more oil out of the ground. Some of the industry's major players include big names like ExxonMobil and Shell.
Carbon capture and storage is an example of what they call a non-improving technology.
A report by the International Panel of Climate Change shows that carbon capture and storage is one of the least effective and most expensive solutions for lowering emissions, especially compared to renewable energy like wind and solar.
Want to get to net zero economy-wide across the whole globe, we are going to need to both deploy carbon capture on some of the very difficult to abate emission sources and scale up carbon removal significantly.
While Airco isn't in the business of removing carbon from the atmosphere, the company gives CO2 a second life by converting it into new products. Airco started out with small-scale products like vodka and perfume to prove its technology worked. Now it's focusing on a big-ticket item with more potential for ecological impact: jet fuel. Airco combines CO2 from industrial plants with hydrogen inside a reactor, and then uses metal catalysts to transform it into jet fuel. While the jet fuel does release CO2 when burned, it's made using recycled carbon rather than newly extracted fossil fuels. That makes it closer to carbon neutral, because the amount of CO2 released is roughly equal to the amount that was captured to make the fuel in the first place. It's not just the sustainability factor that makes Airco successful. The technology itself is what landed the company a $65 million contract with the Department of Defense in 2023.
One of the biggest advantages of our system is that it's modular and that you can deploy it anywhere. We can deploy this near an airport, we can deploy it in a remote location.
This is a huge security perk for the DoD. They can license Airco's tech to make jet fuel on site, eliminating the need to transport the fuel, which can be a vulnerable target.
Technology for us is our product, not just the outputs of the technology as well.
Other companies have their eyes on sustainable jet fuel too. Airco has partnerships with JetBlue and Virgin Atlantic. But how likely is it that this resource replaces fossil fuels for big industries like aviation? What's standing in the way?
The biggest roadblock that the carbon capture industry faces right now is cost. Because fossil fuels are so heavily subsidized, the cost of fossil fuels is really low, and it's really challenging to compete with fossil fuels when you're producing renewable fuel.
Sustainable aviation fuel costs 120% to 700% more than conventional jet fuel, primarily because the industry is still in its early stages, with limited feedstocks and less advanced technology. There has been some movement towards subsidizing. In 2021, the Biden administration passed the Inflation Reduction Act, more than tripling the tax credit for capturing and storing carbon and triggering a boom for the industry. But since President Trump took office in 2025, he's doubled down on fossil fuels and scaled back clean energy credits for wind and solar projects.
We will drill, baby, drill.
While Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, passed in July of 2025, maintained tax credits for carbon capture, utilization, and storage, the administration also canceled at least $1.6 billion worth of existing carbon capture-related projects. There are many other startups working to develop carbon utilization technologies, but to reach its full potential, the industry must overcome hurdles like high costs, policy gaps, and limited funding. Airco brings in most of its revenue through winning government contracts, including a collaboration with NASA. In 2021, NASA awarded Airco $700,000 to use their technology for making astronaut food. They're also working on another project that would utilize carbon for rocket fuel.
We currently have this contract with NASA doing a design of a system that could potentially fuel the return trip for astronauts that go to Mars.
Right now, Airco isn't turning a profit. The company is still focused on research and development, supported by the $69 million it raised in a Series B round in September 2024 from investors including AvFuel, Alaska Airlines, and Toyota Ventures. Co-founder Dr. Stafford Sheehan was terminated in December 2024 and has since filed a whistleblower lawsuit against Airco, alleging a national security breach and improper billing of federal funds. Airco did not respond to multiple requests for comment. But the lawsuit hasn't stopped the company from reaching milestones. In April 2025, Airco announced its synthetic fuel had been successfully tested across land, air, and sea, performing like conventional fuel, but with less smoke. But the industry still has a long way to go. The amount of commercial carbon capture facilities that exist in the states today is only enough to capture 0.4% of the nation's annual emissions. That's according to the Congressional Budget Office.
As we move from dozens to hundreds of carbon capture facilities, think about new ways of using that CO2. There's unlikely to be a silver bullet that gets us all the way there. Instead, what we're going to need is a portfolio of technologies that can collectively get us to where we need to go.
The technology for utilizing captured carbon is still an emerging field. For the industry to thrive, early innovators like Airco are essential to pave new paths.
What we really need is for businesses that want to be climate leaders in this space to step up and be first movers.
A big thing that we really pride ourselves on is hopefully being a beacon for other companies. We really believe that when you bring creativity and technology and innovation together, beautiful things can happen. If we can inspire other companies to enter the space, that's going to be great, not only for the businesses that are in there, but for the humanity and for people as a whole.